Today we're going to talk about support and resistance. Now, there are a lot of resources available on the internet and on YouTube as well explaining support and resistance, but today I'm going to teach you something more worthwhile, something more interesting, and something that will carry forward for the rest of your trading career. I'm going to explain to you the basics of why and how support resistances are formed, the psychology behind it. So let's get started. Here's a quick overview of resistance. Resistance is basically the point where stocks rallied and then declined. That meeting point is your resistance. Here's an example of what a resistance looks like. If you notice, prices went up and then fell down, creating our point A, which we've marked with a blue horizontal line. Prices then carried on upwards, touched the blue line, and this is the point where we expect the market to reverse and start falling, because that is an area of supply. Now, here is another example of a resistance point. This is interesting because it's almost the same, except point 2 actually tried to break resistance. If you see that wick up there, and then closed almost at resistance. Over the next few days, we reacted and fell downwards. So basically, to summarize, a resistance is a point where markets rally and then decline, creating an area of supply, and the market, that turnaround point, is your resistance. Generally, when markets move up and reach that same point where the market turned around last time, that is your area of supply. Moving on to support. Support is just the opposite, and it's an area where markets fell down and then rose. That area where the market turned around is called support. Now, this is easy to understand with a chart. See that point point 1 is our initial support. Prices rallied from there, went down, creating a hammer, and then moved up. So that blue horizontal line is our support. Now let's come to something more interesting. How are prices bouncing off from levels where prices previously turned around? Let's take a case study example of Tata Steel. Now remember, this is an hypothetical example. At any given time, there are 3 market participants. You have a buyer, the person who bought. You have a seller, or the person who sold, is also called a short seller. And 3, you have the person who is not participating in the market, sitting on the sidelines, but trying to catch every single pulse. He's listening to news, reading his own thoughts, comparing notes. And this, although is not a participant, he may participate and most likely will in the future. So let's look at what these 3 people do in a situation where Tata Steel rises. So Tata Steel is trading at rupees 500. So at this point, you have a buyer who's bought shares at rupees 500. You also have a short seller who has sold short at rupees 500, and you have the non-participant who's sitting and comparing notes. What happens is that markets rise. Now remember, the buyer is going to be making a profit. Tata Steel has now rallied to 510 rupees, making the buyer a clean 10 rupees profit. He is, however, greedy and thinking he should have bought more shares to would have made a better amount of profit. The short seller, who had sold at 500, is now making a loss of rupees 10 per share that he's sold, and he's panicking. He wants to exit and cut his losses down as much as he can. Remember, a short seller is a person who profits from a price fall but loses money when prices go up. So he's making a loss. The third participant, who was comparing notes and listening to CNBC probably, or any other financial channel, is thinking he should have bought at 500 and he should have listened to his instinct. Now here's a twist. Prices from 510 suddenly fall to rupees 500. Now all three participants are ready to buy. Your buyer thinks God has given him another opportunity, and he tries to enter the same price he had entered before because he knows the market's going to go up. Of course, I wouldn't recommend this. This is a wrong thing to do, but that's what he does. The short seller is now hitting break even. His losses that he had seen when prices rallied are now come back to no profit, no loss. And to close his position, a short seller needs to buy. So he is interested to buy as well. And the third participant, the person who was actually the non-participant, the person who had no position, thinks he has got a second opportunity at nirvana, and he buys at the same price. So all three participants now have an incentive and a reason to buy at rupees 500. And well, the support works and prices go up because demand has come in because of the psychology of mass of the crowd. This is a general idea of how support and resistance works. This is also how trend lines work, and it should give you a basic idea that when the market tips over to a certain point and everyone has a reason to buy, and the absence of supply allows prices to move up. The same is true for a fall. Stay tuned.